Hey everybody, my name is Brandon. Welcome back to Cinefessions, where we talk all things media. So, weird setup today. I know if you have never watched any of my vlogs, you've probably never seen this portion of my house before. At least, probably not. I don't think so anyway. But I am in my dining room today with my awesome Mondo Planet of the Apes poster behind me. Ignore the mess in the kitchen back there. But anyway, the reason I'm sitting here like this is because I had an idea and I'm gonna give it a shot. I watch a relatively big booktuber called Books and Lala, and she did a tournament with all of the books, like 4.5 and 5-star books she read last year. So I thought, you know what? Let's take that idea and do something with the 4-star, 4.5-star, and any 5-star movies that I watched in 2023, put them in a tournament, and see who comes out the winner. So one thing I noticed in her comments was everyone saying, hey, you shouldn't have included your top 9 in there. You should have just done your honorable mentions. So I'm taking that advice from her comments, and that's what I'm doing here is just my honorable mentions. So I will be posting a top 10 video of the 10 best film discoveries of 2023, but that will come sometime next week or a couple days from now, whatever the case is. Today, we are going to look at the honorable mentions. So let's do this. Hopefully it works out and hopefully it's an interesting video. But before we get into all of it, if you guys have a quick second, go and hit that like button down below. That engagement really does help me out. But with that said, let's not waste any more time at all. Let's start the tournament of my honorable mentions of 2023. All right, so here is the overall look at this tournament bracket. So we have 16 films in here that are all vying to be my number 11 film discovery of 2023. A couple things I don't think I mentioned earlier. These are my film discoveries. I do these all the time. So these are the movies that I watched for the first time in 2023, regardless of what year they were released. So they could be 2023 films. They could be a film from 1964. It doesn't matter. It's just the fact that I watched it for the first time last year. With that said, let's zoom in here to this bracket so you guys can see this a little bit better. This is going to be so wonky. I apologize. Thank you for being patient with me as we make my way through this. But let's get up here to the first bracket. So I will mention I seeded my 1, 2, and 3. So I had 1 5-star film and 2 4.5-star films that didn't make my top 10. And those 3 are like the 1, 2, and 3 seeds. So they are going against 4-star films from their same genre. Doesn't really matter, but Avengers Endgame, I'm not going to talk about the star rating necessarily on all of these, but because most of them are 4 stars, but Avengers Endgame does happen to be one of my 5-star films that I just didn't put it in my top 10. And going against Avengers Endgame is Uncharted from 2022. So I really enjoyed both of these films. Avengers Endgame was just an incredible cap-off to that universe, that MCU up until that point. Took me much too long to watch it, but it was, you know, that post-snap at the end of whatever the heck the Avengers was before it. And I thought it was a wonderful film. Frankly, I just don't remember a ton of the specifics of this one. I watched it way back at the beginning of 2023. If I watched it maybe, you know, in November or December, it would probably be in my top 10. But because I watched it so long ago and I just don't remember a ton of it, that's why it's here. And then Uncharted, I thought, was just a ton of fun. As someone who never really played the video games at all, I didn't really have high expectations. I love Tom Holland. I love Mark Wahlberg. I thought it was a really good kind of action-adventure film that was a ton of fun. So with these two going head-to-head, and this is where it's going to get wonky, so please excuse me, but with these two going head-to-head, I think I'm going to have to move the Avengers ahead, because that to me was just kind of the culmination of so much effort and years of dedication as a viewer as well. I loved it, so that one is going to move ahead. So then we have The Blob going up against Thanksgiving. Now, The Blob is this is the remake, so the one that Scream Factory released this year from, what year is it? 1988, I believe. And that was a first time watch for me. Obviously, all of these were. And I really enjoyed this. I like the original one quite a lot as well. I have a full review of The Blob here on the channel if you want to hear my full thoughts. But it's just a really well done horror film from the 80s. The practical effects look great. The Scream Factory 4K I thought looked awesome. That's not really playing a factor here, but just kind of a side note, I guess. And then I don't know, just the way the whole story came together, I thought was just a lot of fun. It is exactly what I look for in my 80s horror film, so I really liked that one quite a bit. And then there is Thanksgiving, the Eli Roth horror film, and this was the third fake trailer from the Grindhouse movies that became a real movie. And I thought it was a blast. It was, everything I wanted out of an Eli Roth horror film. It is bloody. It was brutal. It just really went for it. And I thought that's awesome. Like, I had a great time with that one as well. So for my money, I think I am going to have to move ahead here. If I can find it. Where is it? There it is. I am going to move ahead Thanksgiving over The Blob. And again, you might not agree with these, and that's totally fine, but this is just what I'm feeling tonight. So Thanksgiving is moving along here. All right, so next up, we have Ethan Hawke in The Black Phone going against Orphan First Kill, of course, the prequel to Orphan. And again, both of these, obviously, I'm not going to say that every time, because obviously I liked all of these. These are all 4 stars or better, but Black Phone is actually a 4.5-star rated film. That was such a creepy movie. And it touches on, themes that we don't often see touched on in the horror genre too often, at least kind of as overtly as it does with The Black Phone. There were some, maybe, I don't even know, there were some aspects that I can see why people didn't like them maybe as much as others did, but for me, the whole movie just worked. The aesthetic is incredible. Ethan Hawke was brilliant, super creepy. The mask, which you can see right here, so good. I loved this one. And then Orphan First Kill, it was a good movie. I really enjoyed it. I don't know which one I liked better between Orphan or the prequel, but I really liked this one. It kind of, you kind of expect the beats and where it's going. So because of that, I am going to move ahead The Black Phone. So let me see, this is my other problem. I'm using my mouse on my Mac, which I don't often use. So let me get the Black Phone moved over. There we go. So Black Phone is going to take that round. All right, so continuing on here, we have The Batman versus Apocalypse Now. So The Batman I reviewed in my 2022 catch-up reviews back at the beginning of the year, and Apocalypse Now I think was my first I Watched 3 vlog, maybe my first one, my 1970s vlog, so watch that for the first time. And Batman, Robert Pattinson, I thought was great as the Batman. The Riddler was an excellent villain in that movie. The kind of the grungy look and feel of the whole thing, I thought was just so well done. I liked that one a lot. Apocalypse Now is, it's iconic. It's a classic. I understand why people, put it on such a high level. And I am totally with you there. It's a great movie. The soundtrack to it is just insane. I love I'm such a sucker for a licensed soundtrack, and it works so well with Apocalypse Now. It's almost one of those blueprint films for doing that. But great movie from start to finish. But unfortunately, I am a Batman mark, so I am going to move ahead the Batman in this battle, which again might make some people angry, but for my money, I'm going to have to move ahead the Batman. So that moves forward. All right. Now we have the battle of the one-name films. We have Nope versus Old. So Old is an M. Night Shyamalan film that I waited way too long to watch, and it gets, I feel like, an undeserved amount of hate. I thought this was a really interesting film. It felt like an M. Night Shyamalan film. I thought that was just so well done. It kind of goes places I didn't really expect it to go. And then there's Nope, which is this sci-fi alien invasion thing, but it's awesome as well. And these are two, I think both of these I talked about in my catch-up videos also. Jordan Peele is just one of the best in the game right now, and Nope kind of, follows suit with that. He did such a great job with that film. There are some visuals in that I think were just awesomely done. And the acting, oh my gosh, I don't have any character names or actors' names in front of me, but the lead female in that, absolutely brilliant. It was so fun to see Ewan from The Walking Dead in that as well. I thought he was great. That is just a really good movie. This is probably the toughest one so far for me. Do I move Nope or do I move Old? Man, I love M. Night Shyamalan. We'll talk about him again in a little bit, I think maybe, or maybe that's later. I don't know. But he's just such a great director. And I've not hated anything I've seen from him, but I could say the same for Jordan Peele. But looking at the movies themselves, Nope was so good, but it felt like maybe there was something more I wanted it to do that it didn't. And that's why it only got 4 stars as opposed to like 4.5 or 5. This is such a tough one, but I think I'm going to go with Old. I can't necessarily articulate exactly why, I guess, which is pretty bad seeing as I'm doing a YouTube video about it. But I feel like for me, Old, it didn't let me down. It kind of exceeded my expectations, where Nope met my expectations, I guess. We'll go with that. And then we have Bodies, Bodies, Bodies going up against Prey, the Predator prequel. Prey was a great film. I actually just received the 4K in the mail today. Supposed to be one of the greatest 4Ks of 2023. And so I had to pick it up. The Atmos on it is supposed to be incredible. So I grabbed that one. I am holding off to watch it because my soundbar is a little messed up right now. So I'm waiting to pick up a new one. But it was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed the main character in it. I thought she was just such a kick-butt character. I thought she was awesome. But Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is one of the most underrated horror films I've seen recently. This movie was utterly hilarious, and it was like super gory and brutal. I didn't know where it was gonna go. I loved that movie. I thought it was just so well done, and I feel like people aren't getting it or something, but it is absolutely like all the stereotypical Gen Z things you see online or hear about. This is that movie, and it's playing them up to such a satirical degree. Great film. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies has to move on. Prey is really well done as well, but man, for me, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is just an awesome movie. So that one is moving ahead. I will also mention, these were essentially randomly drawn outside of like seeds 1, 2, and 3, who they were going against. All of these other ones, I put the names in random.org in order to come up with their like seeding and who they were going against and whatnot. So random battles throughout here. And if you haven't noticed, I'm trying to do this in more of like a live style with little editing, but I'm sure I'm going to mess up big time at some point. So next up, we have Notorious going up against The Witch. So Notorious, of course, from 1946, the Hitchcock film, and then The Witch, the Eggers film from, 2021? Let me see. 2015. Wow, I was way off. But anyway, this was a really good one. Both of these were great. So this is actually interesting to talk about Notorious because officially now I have to close the predict my star rating contest because Notorious is one of those films on there. So that has officially been closed. I will announce the winner to that contest in the coming days or weeks here. But Notorious is a film I really had no idea what it was going into it. And it took me a little bit to start falling for it, but once it clicked, I was really enjoying it. It is kind of film noir-esque from Hitchcock, which I thought was really interesting to watch. The Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman, excuse me, are wonderful together. The chemistry between them is great. The way the villain in the film, the antagonist, handles Bergman's character is just so fascinating to me, and how that all plays out. It was a really well done, well crafted film. The Witch. This is a movie where this movie was hyped up to me so much over the years. I did that one during my Halloween vlog, I think, if you want my full thoughts on that. And I think it lived up to what I was expecting it to be. The acting in it was phenomenal. The whole story was just creepy. The cinematography, I think, is what really stood out to me. Some of and on the Blu-ray that I was watching, the way the aspect ratio they chose was interesting because it made it taller. Everything was just taller in the film, which was really cool because you have this village, these people standing in this village, our main characters, with these giant woods behind them. And it just made the woods look huge. And it was awesome, which it should, because it's where the witch is, right? Or something like that. And so it was very menacing. I really liked that one as well. Like, this is another one. It's difficult for me which one I think deserves to move on, because really both of these, if they were going against somebody, a different film, they probably would move on. Both great films. I think with this one, I don't know. Like, I think I'm going to have to give the nod to Notorious on this one. I think the fact that it holds up so well this many years later, I think is also something to consider. And I think it's just done so well. So I'm going to move forward Notorious. And then we have another of my 4.5-star films here with Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers going against Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Man, do I love both of these films. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, of course, the sequel to the 2020 version. And the reason it made this tournament and the first one didn't is just because I liked it better than the first one. I think I gave them both 4 stars, but I just would put this one above the second one, or the first one, even though there is a moment in this film which is utterly ridiculous. And frankly, if it was a lesser film, it could have completely killed the movie for me. But it didn't, because it was a great film otherwise. What I really loved about this one was the fact that the family stuff was still there from the first movie, but the action was amplified so much. And it made it such a blast to watch. Like, the final battle was a visual feast. Jim Carrey is awesome in this movie. This is great. Idris Elba as the voice of Tails. Awesome. Or maybe, I think he was Knuckles, actually, but just such a good film. Really enjoyed it. However, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers came out of absolutely nowhere to me. I had no expectations going into it. I was watching it for my 2022 catch-up, just like Sonic the Hedgehog 2. And I was laughing from start to finish on this one. The art style differences that they do with, like, the 2D being one character and then the 3D being the other character just looked awesome on screen. The homages to all these other films that were in there, including a Sonic the Hedgehog homage, it's just so funny. And it sticks out to me so much. It is a great film with an awesome story in it, with like a good message behind it. It's great. So as much as I love Sonic the Hedgehog 2, I have to move ahead Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. So that one is getting the nod for me, which gets us through the first round of our bracket here. So Chip 'n Dale's, Notorious, you see them all there. So let's jump up to the top here. Now I'm realizing this is on the bottom of the screen. I apologize for that. Let me fix that. All right, sorry about that. Hopefully that wasn't up there for too terribly long. But anyway, moving ahead here to round 2. Our first matchup is Avengers Endgame going against Thanksgiving. And I won't elaborate too much further on these, but I will say Thanksgiving I do want to do a full Blu-ray review on once that hits in just a few weeks here from filming. So look out for my full thoughts on that. But Avengers Endgame, I have to move ahead. I think it is just, the scale of it is so much more than what we're doing with Thanksgiving. Now, that said, that's intentional. Thanksgiving isn't trying to be something like this, but still, for my money, I am going to move ahead Avengers Endgame in this round. All right, so moving along here, we have Black Phone going against The Batman. Man, I really loved both of these movies as well. But the movie that stuck with me more since watching it has to be Black Phone. So I am going to move ahead Black Phone in this round. I feel like The Batman, if I watch that, I'm shaking the camera, I apologize. If I watch that once or twice more, that might overtake Black Phone in an instance, but for now, I think Black Phone has to move on. All right, so here we have Old going against Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And as much as I love M. Night Shyamalan and I enjoyed Old, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies to me was really well done as well. And it just feels a little bit more special because of what it's doing. It felt more unique than, which is ridiculous because Old was super unique as well. But just in its genre, it felt different. So I'm going to go with Bodies, 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 if I can find it here to move it on. Here we are. So that one is going to move on in this round. And then Notorious going up against Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Oh my gosh, this is a hard one. This is the hardest one from this round for me. I loved Chippendale Rescue Rangers, but I recognize it's not as good a film as something like Notorious, like Hitchcock, of course, just being on a different level. And I don't know if Notorious is not my favorite Hitchcock film. I would probably put Rear Window, Psycho, both of those on top of it, maybe a couple others as well. But even so, man, I think I have to move Notorious ahead in this round, which I might regret in a little bit, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to move Notorious ahead of Chippendale Rescue Rangers, maybe even against my better judgment, but we'll see. All right, so that is round 2. So now we are in the semifinals. Let me shrink the view a little bit. Oh my gosh, I keep doing that. Let me shrink the view a little bit here. Let's do 75%. Oh, just kidding. Let's do 75%. All right, there we go. So now moving this over a little bit. So we have Avengers Endgame going up against the Black Phone. You probably would expect, and I probably should, move Endgame up ahead, but Black Phone was just such a good movie, and it is one that I feel like it deserves highlighting more than Avengers Endgame does. It was so effective for me. I remember there being like maybe 1 or 2 jump scares in it that I thought were so well done, and I just didn't see them coming. And I love that. Like, I'm a big jump scare fan anyway, so I really appreciate that. But I'm going to move ahead Black Phone. Like, that's going to happen. That's going to go ahead of Avengers Endgame, which is probably wrong. I know it's wrong, but I'm doing it anyway, so we're going with Black Phone. And then the other semifinals here, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies versus Notorious. Oh, that's a tricky one. I loved Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I think it's so underrated, it's getting moved ahead, which is so stupid. Like, anyone looking at this would think I'm such an idiot, but that's okay. I am. This isn't a surprise if you watch the channel. So Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is moving in to the finals here. So again, let me try to zoom out a little bit here. Can we see them all? No. All right, let me fix this. All right, there we go. So we have the Black Phone going against Bodies, Bodies, Bodies for my number 11 film discovery of 2023. Fittingly, these are both 2022 horror films. And so this is a really tough one. I loved both of these. Which one, though, kind of stands out to me more? And if I think about it that way, I still think I need to move Bodies, Bodies, Bodies into this number 11 spot. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. They're both excellent. Ask me the same thing next week. Maybe I'll change my mind. But for today, my number 11 film discovery of 2023 is going to be Bodies, 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 which means number 12 is the Black Phone. Let me zoom in a little bit here so we can get our glorious winner the spotlight as we wrap things up, as I move that around too much. But yeah, that is my choice for number 11 film discovery of 2023. All right, so I'm sure that was an absolute mess. I'm sure editing was very difficult, but hopefully watching it worked a little bit better. I have no idea. It was just an idea that I decided to run with, and hopefully it works out. Let me know what you guys thought of this. So those were all of my 4 4.5 and 5-star films that did not make my top 10. Now again, wait just maybe a week here and you'll see my top 10 film discoveries of the year. But this was fun for me. I got to talk about all my, favorite films of the year, and hopefully you enjoyed it as well. But if you did, let me know down in the comments below and tell me what your favorite honorable mention of 2023 is. And then in the next video, I'll have you tell me what your favorite film of the year was. But yeah, that's it, guys. So hopefully you like this one. And if so, go ahead and hit that like button down below. That engagement really does help me out. And like I always say, I don't just talk movies, I talk all things media. Books, movies, video games, graphic novels. If it's media related, I'm interested in it. And if you are too, you might consider subscribing. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today. I just want to say thank you all so much for bearing with me on this ridiculous video, and I will catch you all next time.